Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm creating a Halloween card using a digital stamp from Rachelle Anne Miller. Now first of all, this digital stamp is called Halloween Costumes and I printed it onto this watercolor paper from WaterArt, which isn't a really expensive paper, so I think that any paper should work. I printed it on this paper using the no-line version. So when you buy a digital stamp from Rachelle Anne Miller, you will get a black outline and the no-line coloring outline, which is a really soft gray. And that's what I'm using today. Now, it's the first time that I'm doing some watercoloring onto digital stamps. I avoided doing that because I didn't have a laser printer, and although there are a lot of people that are saying that an inkjet is also working. I saw on several YouTube channels that it really depends, and there are inkjets that will not smudge or anything, but others will, and I'm one of those people that really don't like to invest my time in things that might not work. No, it's a lazy kind of way to live, I think, but now, since the other printer died on me a while back, I bought a laser printer. And well, about laser printers, they say that anything goes. So far I can confirm that, since I'm doing today some watercoloring and I already did a lot of copy coloring using the laser printer. Now, as this is my first time doing some watercoloring on the no-line version, I wanted to take you along. I thought that this was a really sweet, cute stamp, well, digital stamp, so the Halloween costumes, and I really wanted to use it. I remember when Rachelle Anne Miller asked me whether I would like to join, that I went to her side, and just to get a head start and create some videos ahead of time, I purchased several digital stamps. This one was the first that I added to my basket. I think it's the cutest ever. And normally I don't make Halloween cards. Last year I made a few, and I really liked it. It was with some really gorgeous stamps that I got from a giveaway. So this year I already told myself that I was going to make again some Halloween cards, not a lot of Halloween cards, because I definitely do not have use for it. I don't celebrate Halloween. Actually, here you can do some tours where they are frightening you, but I don't know why people like that, because I don't want to be terrified. I don't. So I did it once, I think, go on a tour, and then all the people that were like frightening everyone. Apparently, there were a lot of people that knew me, so they haunted me. Really, they truly were terrorizing me. Okay, that being said, that was the first and final time that I went on a tour, and well, there are some kids that put on the costumes and come trick-or-treating at the doors, but it's not everywhere, and I'm living in a really big city in Belgium, and well, where I live, I don't have that. Where my parents live, it's a really small village. There are some children that really come and well, trick or treat. That being said, I am already done with the basic colors for the bunny. What I'm doing here is similar to what I'm always doing when I'm using my distress inks as watercolors. I smush them down on my, in this case, media mat from Waffle Flowers. You can do it on an acrylic block, on a foil laminated paper, excuse me. You can smush it on anything. I do it on the media mat from Waffle Flowers. It's really easy to clean afterwards, and it's already white, so you can definitely see the ink really well, the color that you will get. Now I decided to first do the base colors and just afterwards doing the costumes. So here I am using my distress inks. If you want to know which color combination I used for which critter, I have them listed on my blog post for each of them separately. That being said, what I do, I take a really big amount of the ink onto my paintbrush, barely any water, just a damp paintbrush, and I bring it towards the edge of the image where I want the shadow to be. So in this case, I'm trying to have all my shadows on the left side, and then of course keeping in mind a bit overlapping areas. And then I create a damp paintbrush, so I clean it off in my water thingy. I clean it off, and then I create a damp paintbrush. So I also have a paper towel close by to each time dab off the excess water, and then I drag that ink that I just added on the edge with the damp paintbrush towards the rest of the area where I want the ink to be. Now this works if the area isn't huge. If it's bigger, sometimes I use a diluted version of the distress ink for the area that I cannot color completely by just dragging the color towards it. But in this case, the critters are really cute. The areas are, well, small to normal, so it's doable. And then I just go back and forth until I'm happy with the depth created. So you can keep adding layers if you want to, and just keep going. And I just do that until I'm happy with it. Now I'm onto the accessories, onto the costumes and everything. So I decided to keep it really Halloween, kinda. The witch or the bunny will get some purple going on, the pumpkin will be orange, then I have the ghost that will be a bit of gray to just define it a bit more, and then we'll do all the rest as well. Just really simple, taking my time to color everything in. It's an online coloring version, but I do need to admit, normally when I have clear stamps, then I use for watercoloring, I use antique linen. For Copic markers, I use Micron 3 no-line coloring ink. And having this gray no-line coloring version is really heaven. You can see the lines, they are subtle. They are absolutely subtle, but you can see them way longer, of course, than what you originally would have with clear stamps and just using antique linen or really soft ink that you have, or a no-line coloring ink. So this coloring, I think it would be way harder if it was with a clear stamp, so definitely recommend this one. Here you can see, again, I'm trying to have that shadow on the left and then dragging the color out. And the first layer often is really soft, not enough shadow, and then I just keep adding until I'm happy. And first I thought that this orange was a bit too bright. I am using the carved pumpkin, which was, I thought, the most, well, the most correct color in this case. But it was really bright. But once I kept adding until I was happy with the shadow created, I was actually really happy with the color I chose. Now this area that I'm doing now isn't correct. I think it's the inside of the basket, so I will go over it later on with some purple to fix that. Purple is darker, so no issue. If you would like to go over it with a lighter color, then of course you need to do something, but the advantage of using distress inks and also other watercoloring inks, I suppose, but I'm always using distress inks, is that it's water reactive. So if the area that you're coloring in was wrong and you need a lighter color to be there, just clean your paintbrush, go in there with some water on your brush, and then dab it off with a paper towel, and that will already start lifting up the ink. Take your time, let it dry, do it again. Don't overdo it while it's not dry yet, because then you might rip your paper while doing that. So just keep that in mind, but normally you can reactivate the ink that that might have been on the wrong area. Onto the purple. Isn't this hat amazing? I love it. So as I said in the beginning, normally I don't make Halloween cards. Last year I started, I liked it, so I am going to make some Halloween cards this year as well, keeping it limited again. but I mean, who can resist, you know? Once you made a Halloween card, you will be convinced, if you were like me and thought that you didn't need to make any. It's not that you need it, it's just that it's fun to make it. And that's what it's all about. So that's why I wanted this digital stamp. It's so cute. I truly think it's one of the most adorable digital stamps that Rachelle Anne Miller has currently in her shop. And of course she's creating more and more, so maybe in the future there will be someone, well, a digital stamp taking the place of this one. But for now, it's one of my favorites, and I hope that you are enjoying the coloring, because I know it's a lot of coloring. But there are a lot of people who really want to see the whole process, so for them I am showing it. If you don't want to see it, you can always skip a bit. Personally, I'm one of those people that really enjoy watching someone else color and seeing the whole image evolve. So yeah, here I decided to use purple for the baskets. I know that you can also use orange, and I think actually orange will be used the most. I don't know, not doing Halloween, as you know, but just because my pumpkin was already orange and there was a lot of these baskets really close to the pumpkin, I just decided to use another purple to help me with the shading, to define it from all the other areas as well. So it took me a while to get that blend that I wanted to have. Also did the inside, and then here I realized that the area was probably not right. So I went on it with a bit of water to already lift it up a bit, and then I just went in with the ink, because the ink will be darker in the end. And then it's all about going back and forth. Now I don't have a lot of water on my brush, so the areas that I'm painting are relatively quickly dry, which is handy. Otherwise, I would suggest just leave the area, let it dry, and continue with another one, just to make sure that you will not overwork the paper. Again, when it's wet, it can react really strange and sometimes rip the paper, and that's just sad for all the effort that you put into it already. So here I'm almost done with the painting. As I said in some previous videos, I really love the curly and swirly lines that Rachelle Anne Miller adds to her images, to her illustrations. So I will add them with a black pen, just to have all those details reappear. I already did it in the past also with some pencils, just to have the same colors, but in this case I'm going to use a really thin Micron Fineliner. I think it's a 005 that I will be using to add all those details in. I truly love them, and you can still see them really softly, which is perfectly fine as well for the no line coloring version, I think. With the black outline, of course, you will not lose the details, but I was going to do the eyes with black, and then I just thought, let's continue and just add all the details in with the black. And well, once you get going, you cannot stop until it's all done. So I took my time truly, also made sure that it was dry before I went onto the area with my fineliner. So really taking the time, and each time I did a line, I discovered another one that I didn't saw at first. Also really handy is to have another one of the images, or just have it on your laptop or on the side, or a black outline really close by to check whether you had all the details. Of course, there might be some details that you don't want to have on your image, then you can just skip them. If you want to have as much details as I wanted to have, it's really handy to have a version aside without all the colors already on top. So I printed, well, when I print my digital stamps, I already print two of the images, not necessarily the same, Sometimes I do 2 different digital stamps on one paper just to have well, the 2 panels that I can get out of the paper immediately, because when you snip the paper or when you cut it, well, then it's harder to print on it, and I don't want to lose any, well, area to have digital stamps on or whatever I need. So therefore I make sure that my paper is completely used. Also, when I'm doing masking for my digital stamps, I fill up that mask completely with a crazy amount of images as much as possible, just to not have too many masking paper that's going into the trash. So as you can see, it is a really slow process here, but I think it's really important. I love the swirliness, but you need to take your time to get it back in there, or I at least need that. So I'm doing that, slowly building up this scene, and I was so happy seeing this all evolve and coming together. It's so much fun. So I just keep going, checking that other prints to help me. And then I decided to also do the dotting details, which we have on the pumpkin, we have it on the broom, also on the hat, on the squirrel. So yeah, it was a labor of love, you know. Again, I think it's one of those cards that will never leave my house, because I will never be able to do it exactly the same. So next up, I had to be creative for the frame. Also, I have limited amounts of Halloween stamps, as I said, so it was a bit of a search to find a sentiment. And then I took the Blueprints 27 for my favorite things in combination with the Waffle Flower additional A2 layers die, because I wanted to create a frame. And this Blueprints 27 creates a panel, and I didn't want a panel, I wanted a frame. So therefore I took the additional layers. I first thought to have everything in the A2 layers die. I didn't, but I will use the A2 layers die, so you have to from Waffle Flower. I will use the regular A2 layers die to cut out my A2 sized panel out of this watercolor paper, but for my frame, the additional A2 layers die. So I'm lining it up on my grid mat, trying to create even spacing in between the dies, and then I'm adding them together using some purple tape. Now next up, I am going to take the Petite Gingham paper pad from my favorite things. It's my favorite pattern paper. It works with everything. Every color is in there as well. So I took this purple one, which was fabulous, along with the hat. So I added this created frame that I have here on top of it, cut it out, and then I cut the same frame twice out of some Nina, just some white cardstock, to add some dimension. So I did that by not removing the purple tape that was keeping those two dies together, and then I'm just using some liquid glue to add all of these frames on top of each other. So once I did that, I could decide where I needed to have my panel cut from this watercolor paper. And as I said, therefore I'm using the A2 layers die, the biggest one. And I'm just lining everything up, making sure that I like the spacing and the placement of the sentiment. Once I'm happy with that, I am adding some purple tape all over to keep this die in place, and then I will run it through my die cutting machine. Once that was done, I could easily stamp out my sentiment. This one is from the Boo to You from Avery Elle, and I'm using the Eggplant ink from Concord and 9th, which was again perfect for the purple that I already used. Now, having everything laid out like this, I decided that I wanted to have something as grounding. So I took that that pumice stone again. I also used it on the critters, and I just scribbled some pumice stone. I created a horizontal line sort of, and then I dragged that color downwards like that, keeping in mind that my frame isn't going towards the complete outside of this panel, so I didn't want it to come from underneath the frame, so I limited myself on the edges to not go too broad with this ink. I didn't say it in the beginning, but for the ones that are interested in the size of my paintbrush, it's a 0. Concerning the size, it can, well, I'm not a watercoloring expert. I'm just doing what feels right and what is fun for me to do. There are a lot of watercoloring experts that say that you should change the size of your paintbrush depending on the images or the size of your images. Now, personally, for me, it's all about having control and feeling in control of those hairs on your paintbrush. And for that, I personally find a 0 working best for me. I also have a 0.2, so, well, not a 0.2, I mean half of the size of this one. So it's smaller, and actually, I must be honest, I cannot paint with that one. Why? Because I don't feel in control of the hairs even when it's a smaller paintbrush. So it's not necessarily, in my opinion, with a smaller paintbrush that you will be able to paint more lovely or anything like that. Just try some sizes and have fun with it. Try to see where you can find some control. And if you have that, just use that size and have fun, you know. That's what I could recommend, but again, I'm not an expert. I'm just doing what I like and what ends up like something that I kind of like as well. So added the frame on top of this panel, and I decided to leave it like this. This is my card for today. I'm not adding anything. This is a really precious watercolored, no-line coloring Halloween card with the Halloween costumes from Rachelle Anne Miller. I want to thank you all for stopping by and taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and of course that you like the end result. If you do, you can always give this one a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate it. I want to wish you all a fabulous day, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!